Hello and welcome to BISP Solutions. My name is Ankita, and today we are going to see the tickets that we generally find when we will be working in the projects of the supports. So today we are going to see the tickets related to the data management. So our first ticket is going to be the load trial balance data in debit credit format in entity 111. Okay. So let me take you to my data sheet first of all, which is a text file. Okay, so in the given case, you can see that in my data file, you can view it as the account. We have the account dimension, then we have the entity member name 111, then we have the data in the debit credit format. Okay, so in some of the cases, you find that we have data in the debit of the member name, and in some time we have in the credit. Okay, so in all the cases you can see that when we will be having data in the debit and credit, we have 000. Okay, similar goes with when we have the data like for example in 1620 you will see that we have 11,000 as the data and credit. However, in the debit column we have 0 as the data. Okay, so now we are going to view it. Okay, so we are going to load this data using data management. So before that, we will first go to the navigator, and then I will select the data exchange here. Okay, so under this data exchange, we will be first going to create the data source and the target application. So for that, I will click on action, and then I will select the applications for that. Under applications, I will be first providing the data sources. So for that, I will select the category as data source. Then here we will be having it in the form of file, and I will name it as data load TB. Okay, so my source data is data load TB. So here we have got a pop-up message of confirmation of registration of the source application. After that, I will again click on this plus sign, and then I will select here the category as the EPM local. Okay, here you can see that we already have this with us, and the target application is going to be vision, and the cube is all cube. Here I will add a prefix as TB underscore. Okay, okay, now here you can view that we have the data load TB with us as the data source, and another one is the target application which we have created named TB underscore vision. Okay, after creating the source and the target application, we need to create a connection between the two. So for that, I will then go to the import format. To go to the import format, I will again click on navigator, and then I will go to the data management. Okay, under data management, I will go to the setup first, and then under setup, I will be clicking on import format under integration setup. Okay, now here I will add an import format by clicking on this plus sign, which is green in color. Okay, so here I am going to name it as IMF TV data load. Here our source file is going to be, which we have just recently created, that is the TB, that is data load underscore TB. Then our target application is going to be TB underscore vision, which we just recently created for the same. Okay, now after that I will click on save, Okay, now after clicking on save, we here we have selected the file type as fixed numeric data. So we are selecting here, why we are selecting it as the fixed numeric data, because in the data sheet, in the text file, we can view that we have the data, we have to mention the start and the length of the columns of all the dimensions combinations. So here for account dimension, I will copy it to the source column, and in the start we have to select the start as 1, as we can see that in account. Okay, so account is being started from the first digit, so this is the first one, that is 1510. So the length is going to be 4, as it has 4 digits, right? So the start is going to be 1, as we are starting from the first digit. However, the length is going to be 4, as the account dimension member name consists of 4 digits. Okay, after providing the start and the length for account, I will then save it and then move forward to the amount dimension. Under the amount, after providing the source, I will go to the data file, and here I will be counting the from which digit it is going to start. So the account, in account, we have, for the first one we have the 4 digits. Okay, then this space will also be counted as the digits here, so it is going to be 5, then 6, 7, 8, 9, and from 10th onwards we have the amount. Okay, so here the start is going to be 10, and the length here is going to be, as you can see that the data for under the head debit is 5 digits. Then we have the space, which will be counted as 6th digit, and then again we have the 5 digit with us. So in all total we have 11 digits. So the length is going to be 11 over here for in case of amount. I will save it, and then I will add an expression here named debit credit split. Why we are doing so? Because you can see that we have considered this entire value as amount, and we have provided the length for 11 for the same. Okay, here we can see that we have a gap which actually separate the debit and the credit column, right? So for that, I'm going to use here the debit credit split expression. So under this, we can see that after 5th digit, 6th digit, 6th is one is the blank space. Okay, so for that I will mention the expression as 6 over here. Okay, so what will happen is the system will split the difference between the two, and it will not be counted as this continuation number. After that, I will go to the entity, I will copy it, and I will be then selecting the start column of the entity. Okay, so after we can see that we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From 6th digit onward, we have the entity dimension. So I will mention here 6, and the length is going to be 3, as entity dimension have only 3 digits. Okay, so here it is going to be 3, and I will save it. Now we have HSP view base data, which we where we haven't mentioned it in the data form. So what I will do here is I will just select a random number over here. For example, I am taking here as 2, and the length is going to be 0, as we do not have any value in our data file, right? So after that, I will click on save. Okay, so before that, under expression, I'm going to mention here as base data. Okay, as we are going to do a hardcore mapping for the members for the dimensions, which is not mentioned to us in the data file. So here for product, we are going to select here as P underscore Let me see the product. So for that, I will go to the dimension and then to the product dimension. Here I will select the product name as P110, that is a Sentinel standard notebook, P_110. Okay, after that I will save it. Then for the version, again I'm going to go for a hardcore mapping. It is going to be working. Then I will save it. Okay, so this was all about the import format. I will then go to the location and I will add a new location here named LOC_TV data load. After that, I will select the import format with the help of this search icon. So here I will be selecting it as IMF_TB_data load. Okay, so after selecting the import format, we will be automatically getting the source and the target applications. Okay, after that I will save it. Then we will be doing the period mapping. So for period mapping, I will be then going to the interface and then here using the navigator, I'm going to select again the data exchange under application. Under the data exchange, I will click on action and then I will select the period mapping here. Under the period mapping, I will click on application mapping and I will select the target application for which I am going to map the period. Okay, so TB Vision is the target application and the key period here is going to be December 22. Okay, and after selecting the period, I will save it and then I will move forward to the source mapping. So under the source mapping, the source type was going to be our file, and here the source is going to be data_load_TV. And here I will mention the calendar as CL, and then I will save it. After that, with the help of this plus sign, I'm going to add a period here. I will select the period in the target period key. Okay, so it is going to be December 22. Okay, the source mapping and the application mapping should match with each other. Okay, there should not be any difference between these two. After selecting the period, I will then save it and I will close the source map. I will close the period mapping and after that I will proceed to the category mapping here. So under the given case, if I will be loading the historical data, I will be selecting the actual as the category over here. Okay, so if you want, we can provide the application mapping here. Okay, for example, I will be selecting for the target application and then save it. By the help of this plus sign, I'm going to add the target application if required. So it is not allowing us to add the target category attribute. Okay, so no problem. We already have under the global mapping, we have the actual scenario and the current scenario with us. So here we are going to load the data under the actual scenario. So for that, I will then again go back to the data management interface. Here I will then click on the workflow first. Under the workflow, we are going to select the data load mapping under data load. So here I will select the location first, which we have previously created, named data LOC underscore TB underscore data load. Okay. After that, our period was December 22. Category is going to be actual, and then I will click on OK. Okay, so automatically we can view that the source data, the source file, and the target application has been selected. Okay, now I will click on the like, as we are going to perform the like mapping here. By the help of this green plus sign, I will then do the star to star mapping, which is also termed as like mapping, and will name the rules here, which is a mandatory field. And then I will select the dimensions, and I will again do the like mapping for all the combinations, for all the dimensions that we have over here. After data comes the entity. I will add new, and then save it. We need to map all the dimensions over here. Each and every dimensions is to be mapped. So the rule name can be any. It's not that it should not be any specific name. We can name it as per our own requirements. Then lastly comes the version dimension. Okay, so this I'm going to map here as. Okay, after mapping all the dimensions, let us check whether we have mapped all the dimensions or not. After checking this, I will then move to the data load rule. Okay, now I will click on data load rule under data load in the workforce, in the workflow. By adding this, by clicking on this plus sign, I'm going to add a data load rule here. So I will be using here suffix as DLR, then TB underscore data load. And with the help of the search icon, I'm going to select the import format again. So the import format is IMF underscore TB underscore data load. Okay, after selecting this, I will select the file here. As we have previously loaded the file already in it, name data underscore management underscore data load underscore debit credit is split .txt. So it is a txt file, as I have already shown you here. Okay, so this is a txt file that we have. So we have already uploaded it. We can upload the file using this upload option, and can browse the file and can fetch the document from the location. Okay, after that I will click on OK. Now after adding the file, I will click on save and then execute the rule. So for that, I will first click on the import for sources. Okay, and then run the rule. When our import will be successfully completed, then we will move forward to the import and export both. Okay, so here we are done with the import from source. Now we will go to the export to target. Okay, first of all, let me show you how it looks in the data load workbench. So in the data load workbench, when our import is successfully done, we will be having two fichiers with us. First one is the import and the validate one. Okay, now by clicking on this export, I'm going to add the export mode here as a store data, and then click on OK. Okay, so now here we got the third fish as well, which are all in orange color. It means that data is successfully being loaded into the application. Okay, so view this. I have already created a data form in the application. So I will take you to the data and will show you the impact over there, whether the datas are being loaded or not. Okay, so here we have the scenario as current. Okay, let me change the scenario here first. So for that, I will go to the designer. So here our scenario is going to be actual. Okay, I will add this and then click on OK, and then I will save it again. I will then go to the form. See, we can view the data that we have loaded in the application. Okay, so here let me minimize it so that we can view it properly. So in the given case, we can see that the 5150 member is the land, okay, which has a debit balance, which we can see is a positive value. Then in the case of the accumulated depreciation 1620, where we can see that is in the column name credit, so it is being shown in the negative format, right? So this is how it looks when we load the data into the application of the trial balance. Okay, so this was a small extract from the trial balance debit credit split method. Now we will move to our next ticket. So our next ticket is about the how to ignore a row by loading the data in EPM application. So for that, I will then first go to the data sheet that I have created over here, which is a CSV file. So in the given case, in the given application, we can view that we have the data for the account dimension. Okay, the member name is 1120. The version is working here. So, and here we have the multiple entities with us. Okay, so we are going to load data for all these entities. These are the extract from which we have received from the ERP applications. Okay, so then we have the product as P100, P underscore 100, and we have finally lastly we have the amount column with us. So in case of entity, we don't want to load data into the member named 120, 130 and 140. Okay, so let me color it with a yellow color. Okay, so in these three entities we don't want to load the data, so we are going to map for the same. Okay, so we are going to use the ignore mapping in the in data load mapping. Okay, so let us now start with the process. So first of all, I will go to the application. Under the navigator, I will select the data exchange. Under the data exchange, I will first click on the action and will create a data source and the target application in applications. Then I will click on this plus sign and will add a data source here. So data source is going to be file, and I will name it as file, name it as ignore, or it should be, let it keep it as simple file 1 underscore 1. Okay, then after that I will again click on this plus sign and I will add the target application here. So here it is going to be the EPM local, as it is a data load. Okay, and if we will be loading the metadata, in the given case we will be selecting the dimensions here. Okay, so here we are going to write the prefix as data DL underscore vision. Okay, after adding the data source and the target application, I will be then going back to the data management. Okay, here I will go to the setup. Under the setup, I will then create the import format first to create a connection between the source application and the target application. So here I will name it as data load IMF underscore data load underscore ignore. Okay, the source file that we have created previously was file underscore one. I'm going to select this here, and then in the under the target we are going to select the target application as DL underscore vision, which we have created to load the data. Here the data file type is going to be delimited numeric data, as it is a single column data load. Okay, so now we can see that we have to map the source and the target application, and here the source is account. I will go to the file, and we can see that account is in column number 1. So here I will select the field as field number 1. So here we have the data loading node, control V, and for amount we have the column number 5, right? So I will be mentioning the field number as 5 over here. Then we have entity as field number 3. Okay, so here we have the entity as field number 3. Okay, we are going to map exactly the same. We are not making any such changes in this input format mapping. Where it is ignore. Okay, then here we have the HSP view, for which we are going to do the hardcore mapping. So we can mention the field number as 2 or any other number. And here I will mention the expression as base data. Okay, then we have the product. So the product column is column number 4. So our field number is going to be 4 here. And the version here is going to be field number 2. And then I will save it. Okay, now I will again select the import format summary. Okay, so here we are done with the mapping in the import format. After that I will create a location. Okay, so to create a location I'm going to name it as LOC underscore data load, and data load underscore ignore. Then here I'm going to select the import format. So the import format here is going to be IMF underscore data load ignore. So after selecting the import format, we can automatically get the source and the target application. After that I will save it. After reviewing it, I will save the location that I have created. Okay, now I'm gonna go for a period mapping. So again, for period mapping I will go back to the data exchange. Here I will then click on action. I will select here the period mapping, and I will first create an application mapping. Okay, so for period mapping I will select the target application here first as DL vision. Okay, I will save it and then click on this plus sign, with the help of which I am going to add a period over here. Which is November 22. Okay, I will save it. After selecting the period in application mapping, then I will switch to the source mapping. Here I will select the file as the file 1. I will mention the calendar as CA calendar. Okay, After that, I will save it, and then with the help of the plus sign, I'm going to add a period over here. So our target key period is going to be November 22, which is exactly the same as we have provided in the application mapping. After that, I will click on OK and I will save it. Okay, after doing this, we're not going to make any changes in the category mapping, as we are going to load data into the actual scenario again. So for that, I'm not doing anything in the category mapping. Then I will directly move forward to the workflow, where I will select the data load mapping, and then I will select the location. Okay, so here I'm going to select the location as LOC underscore data load ignore, which is for the period number 22. Category is actual. Okay, I will click on OK after selecting this. Now here I'm going to map the account dimension, as we are going to do here a like mapping, which is star to star mapping as well. So here I will name it as our A4, which is the rule name for account. Then for data, I'm going to map again, do this star mapping. Then comes the entity. For entity, I will first do the star mapping. Okay, as and when we do the star mapping, so what will happen is whatever data which we have in the source flat file will all be loaded to all the entities. However, we have already discussed that we do not want the data into the application in 120, 130 and 140 entities. So for that, I will click on this N one. Okay, under the N, I will add the source value is going to be 120, 130 and 140. Okay, I will draw down here. After that, under the target value, I will name it as ignore, because I don't want to add the data into this particular combination in this particular entity. Okay, so under the entity dimension, I will be first I will be first giving the value of the source application, which are the 120, 130 and 140, which is the entity. Then we will be providing the target value as ignore. Okay, then I will name the rule as anything as per our own requirement, and then I will save it. Okay, after doing that, I will move forward to the rest other dimensions. So for HSP view, we are going to do a like mapping. I will then select like and then add it, the mapping here. Okay, then after that, I will be selecting the product. Under the product, I will click on add, and then I will do the star mapping and name the rule. Lastly, we have the version dimension. I will again do the like mapping and we'll name it as K6. Okay, after making these changes, I will then view whether I will check whether I have mapped all the required dimensions. Okay, we have done all the mapping. Okay, wait a minute. First of all, I will need to select the all mapping. Only after that I will be able to view it. Okay, so we have done the data mapping, entity. So here in the entity, we have done two mapping. First is the like and another one is the in mapping to ignore these three entities. After that, we have the HSP view, product, version, and we did mapping for all the dimensions over here. So we will further proceed to the data load rule here. So here I'm going to create a load rule. So I will name it as DLR data load underscore ignore. So here I will going to create import format as IMF underscore data load ignore. Then I will select the file which we have already uploaded using this upload option visible to us. So here the data load ignore is our file, which is a CSV file. Okay, after that I will save the changes that I have made in the data load rule. After that I will execute this rule. So for that, first I will click on the import from sources and then run this rule. And then I will refresh it. Okay, so our import and validation is successful. I will then click on export and will store the data. Okay, and then I will click on OK. So here we have got third fish as well. So our data is successfully loaded. So here we can see that this, under the source entity we have all the entities. However, in case of the entity in the target, we have the ignore option for 120, 130 and 140, which means the data is not being loaded into these three combinations. Okay, so now I will go to the navigator and will select the data over here. Then I will click on the form that I have already created, name data load ignore. Okay, so here we can see that the data is being loaded into these three members. However, for machine resources, computer resources and the communication resources, which are 120, 130 and 140 respectively, the data is not being loaded, right? So this is how we load a data using the ignore function. Okay, so that's all for today. For any more queries, please feel free to ask. Thank you.